Hi gang, so I've got a car to drive my family around. The Škoda Superb Mk3 between 2015 and 2023 manufacturer year. Back shock absorbers have gone, they're leaking, came up on the MOT. And I also noticed that in comparison to my front wheels, which are quite vertical in stance, these ones got more of a inward camber, so I think the rear suspension's also tired. So I thought I'd make a video on how to do rear shocks and springs, primarily for my son when he's grown up. He's got videos of his dad doing jobs, teaching him things, but also memories of me, and you guys can benefit. Let's get started. You'll need a long straight pick, because that can help with aligning shock absorber bolt holes later on when you're refitting. Pry bar, it's always handy for aligning things. A 3/8 extension that you'll need for removing the two top bolts of the shock absorber arm. 3/8 ratchet, another optional extra. This is when you remove a wheel bolt, you can thread this in, take over the others, and then the alloy of the wheel will just hang on that, so you can slide it off easily without risking your back or trying to catch it while it's still wonky angle on the last bolt that you're removing, the wheel nut. Sockets, and you need 18mm shallow and deep and an 18mm spanner for the bottom shock absorber bolt. Also just the lower suspension arm itself has another bolt that's attached to the wheel hub. 17mm socket for your wheel nuts, 16mm shallow, deep and spanner, 13mm shallow, deep and spanner, 16mm box spanner. This is for the top mount and cup of the shock absorber to remove it, and then a little 6 or 5mm spanner for the top of the shock absorber's strut. It's just got two flat sides, and you hold that with one and then loosen the nut with the other. There's only 5 bolts in total for both shock absorber and suspension, so it really is a simple job. Optional extras, a impact wrench, just make things a little bit quicker, but to be honest, I always recommend starting things off by hand slowly and then moving on to zip them off. Brake cleaner, cleaning up afterwards, kind of penetration oil spray. This one's from Screwfix, $9.99, like I said, 750ml, good deal. And I'll show you all the bolts and nuts that I sprayed it on before even taking the wheel off. Just slightly jacked up the car either side, sprayed this on, left it half an hour, gave it everything another spray, and it should, all being well, hopefully make it a lot easier to remove all the bolts that haven't been touched in 10 years. That's everything. Obviously you need a jack, 2 shock absorbers. I believe them to be OEM. This is the part number. Most of the standard engine variants 1.4, 1.8, unless you've got like a hybrid electric one with the batteries in the boot. But I'll put the OEM part number in the description. I got mine from Parts in Motion. They're very good. You can message them either on eBay or the website with your VIN number if you really want to double check, or your reg, and they'll confirm if it's for your car or not. You'll also need coil springs. These also by KYB. That's the part number. There's the shock absorber and the spring. This is your classic sign that your shock absorber's gone, covered in questionable fluid, soaked. Underneath there's just that bolt just there, bottom of the shock absorber, and then up here you have 2 more either side. You can just see one there, on the other you can just, this stuff you can just peel it back. What I recommend, this bolt here, this bolt here, this bolt over there, lather them all in spray. By the way, you can reuse this plastic housing to keep the new one covered. Let's get to it. Take off this lining screw here. That is a Torx T25, and then you take off one down here. Be careful because they might be rusty, you don't want to strip them. Now, one thing to be very careful of, linked to this suspension arm, you see that green plastic little gizmo there? That links the low suspension arm with the leveling system of the headlights. If you've got like Xenons, it lets the car know if you're in an incline, decline, wonky left and right, that kind of thing. So if you take off the shock absorber, the spring, in the process of doing that, you're gonna lower that arm and snap that green thing, which is gonna create a lot of headache for you. So I'll show you in a little bit how to unclip that first, and then get on with the rest of the job, because if you break things like that unwittingly, yeah, it's gonna make this job considerably longer. So that's the green part that I showed you before, and this lower bracket has just got a bolt either side, T25 Torx. I can recommend it on a little extension because this is kind of cocked at an angle, so you can't get the ratchet here straight with the head. Easy. While you are here, just check that it does move fairly freely, so you can always give it a little bit of dry PTFE or something like that into these joints, stop them ever seizing, and then that piece snapping there, and got a nice £250 unit that you got to buy. Whoopee! And just as a matter of precaution, move it out of the way and put the bracket above the lower suspension arm. Just tuck it into there. That way when you're yanking down on the arm to get the spring out, there's no risk of it just getting caught accidentally and broken anyway. Right next to it, as you can see, there's a 13mm bolt, and there's a nut on the other side, identical, also 13mm. This is a 13mm socket, obviously. On the inside, like little teeth. See those two lines going into the socket? They're meant for exactly that, getting just a little bit extra grip. These are sold by Mac, particular model, XPB, and then this one's a 13mm PT. I really like them. They just give you that extra bit of reassurance. Back to the video. Try it on this side, try it on the other side, see which one feels like a snug or more snugger fit, and then, you know, stick the socket on, and then on the other side, just 13mm spanner will just hold it, that isn't under as much torque and pressure when you're trying to crank it off. The nut did come off nice and clean. That's owing to me putting penetrating oil on all those parts yesterday, giving it 24 hours kind of thing to soak in. Well, hey, we're just going to take off the top two 16mm bolts of the shock absorber. As you can see there, one here and one there. These are 16mm. I've got the one I mentioned before, the Mac one, just because it's got those extra teeth. They are at an angle as well, so you've got to keep that in mind. Like this. But now that that's loose, this is the 18mm bolt. Like I said before, check which of these bolts is in the best condition. You also have to be careful because this protrudes out quite a bit, and will it clear past it when you're trying to loosen it? If it's only getting a partial connection, that's risky because you could strip it when you crank on it. You want a deep socket for exactly that reason. And get something like another spanner, put it on the end of like that. And again, be careful if you see it going wonky, don't, because you don't want to strip it, but that'll give you extra leverage to loosen the bolt once you get it going. Use the old zipperoo. Gentle tap. Pretty easy. Put just on the end like that, just to keep them together. Of the two, this is the longer bolt because you'll see the other one. This one's the shorter. They're both identical size, 18mm. Once you've done that, just grab the shock absorber, compress it a little bit, and then just grab it and lift it out. What you're going to do, take off this cap. You want to keep that, the top of the shock absorber. You can reuse that. Side note, if you're lucky as in still the original ones, you'll have a sticker. It will tell you the part number. You'll be able to potentially just take off the wheel and just look down the bottom of the strut where it sits and see the sticker, and then double check that you've got the right number. The same applies also for the spring. If you see down here, white label just there, the part number just there of the spring. Anyway, so this is your shock absorber. This will take a 16mm box spanner with the offset of the swan neck, and then this you can put a 5 or a 6mm spanner open end on that one. A couple of turns just to work it loose. It's not on tight there at all, to be honest. Do that and then just slide this whole assembly off to reuse on the new one. Let's do that. Yeah, now that's off. I did have to end up using a bigger adjustable spanner to catch that and hold that top piece. The cheap Chinesium spanner. Once you do, this should come off. Once you slide that off, that piece you want to reuse. The other thing I would say, this piece here, it's reusable, but only if your strut has this metal ring. If it has this, it won't take that plastic. If it doesn't come with that, if it's just plain rod, then it will take that and you can reuse it. That's just something to be aware of. It's not a problem, but when you look at it, if you leave them level, you see how this is longer, so that is a replacement for this essentially. If you order the originals or ones that come like that, then of course save this piece and reuse it. If not, it's not a problem. Just on a final point, because you might be asking, well, Mr. Mechanic, why the heck why didn't you go for one of these? You know, so it looks like the original one. Because all the aftermarket version of these were cheaper. This was the most expensive, decent brand aftermarket one I could find. It says that they're made in the Czech Republic. To be honest, it looks better made than the than the originals. So yeah, it's not because I cheaped out. Not that I really worry too much what you think. I don't know who you are. Now we'll get onto the spring. So I just need to remove this last bolt. One thing to be careful of here is do it enough to work the nut loose, because this spring is is still pushing down on this arm. Obviously the whole thing's under tension, so what you can do, get yourself your car jack, align it, the jack, so it's in parallel to the hub. It doesn't need, again, loads of tension, just enough to make it a little bit easier, and as you lift it you'll see the bolt start to straighten out. Anyhow, that's your second bolt out. Just lower the jack gently. The wheel hub can bounce up. Careful of that. That'll come loose. So now that it's all loose, spring, you can just go down here and just manually just put, it takes no effort whatsoever. You just push the arm down and the spring with the rubber seating pad will come out, and then you just have to, and yay! One thing I would say here, just to the bottom, can you see this little tab? The end of the spring coil needs to be in that exact place. For the bottom, it matters. The reason I say that is because this whole rubber grommet on the underneath at the exact same spot has like a nub that protrudes out, and that nub goes into a hole into the metal, a lower suspension arm. This thing can only go one way, exactly there. Now every spring obviously it's different. It just the metal where it's been cut by when it's been machined and manufactured. So on the other end, on the top surface for example, it doesn't matter because this whole area here is just flat. There's no, it just needs a flat surface. There's no specific indentation, and it doesn't have a tab like it does down there. You can obviously put this to land on the end of the new spring, but how it goes into the fit in here is, it really doesn't matter. Putting this in, align the bottom of the spring with that tab. There it is. Once you've done that, and try what you can manually to fit it in, but there's a good chance it's not gonna be willing, which is fine. As long as you've kept it in that position there, you then, this little ball joint here might not let you, but you can just fit it in there so it's gonna land on the tab, and then you can get the jack back, put it underneath the low suspension arm, and then start lifting it up until it meets that knuckle of the wheel assembly, and then put the bolt through. Now that you can see a little bit of the hole of the knuckle appearing there, something like a straight pick, and that'll kind of lock it together. And then you can carry on with the jack until it fits in, and then you're just gonna have to keep doing the same until it comes out the other side. Sometimes it'll do that just with screwing it back in. At that point, you can get the nut, thread it by hand onto the other end, then you can 18 spanner onto that side. I'm just for the sake of speed. Yeah, I'm happy with that. Let's move on to the shock absorber. A couple of points. Firstly, prime it, which is simply just pushing, compressing it all the way down. Let it go right to the end, maxed out. Once you've done that with a cloth, if you see anything that's been picked up, you see this little ring here from you touching it, just wipe that off. Give everything a nice wipe. Try and get the strut without touching the sides directly in. Again, because of different manufacturing tolerances, it might feel like this thing doesn't want to go in, but give it a wiggle and it will. Once that's done, get the new nylock nut, comes with the replacement shock absorber. Then get the 16mm ring spanner, get your 5mm or 6mm spanner to hold it. Go as far as you can with that. Feels like that for me. Once that's done, you can reuse that plastic cap that covers the top, which I've sent to Timbuktu. Oh, there it is. That just clicks on there. Reinstall it, which is the reverse of this process, but I'll do it anyway, just for your benefit. Just another thing to mention, the strut will often come with something like that. Keeps it compressed to a degree. You can use that. Put this on the bottom end of the strut, compress it, put the strap on here, so it'll just keep it small, just makes it a little bit easier to get into place, position the bolts in, and then you can just cut this, it'll just release it. Just a little tip, get your 2 bolts handy, 16mm socket. I usually put it on the extension, just helps a little bit when trying to get things positioned. Find the bolt hole by just by hand, try and get a visual on it, and you'll feel when it's threaded in there. And then we just focus on the strut, lower this jack, lower that, and actually move the jack to the other end. Nicely. Okay. It's tempting to like put WD-40 or something on these, but don't. Any kind of oil will allow you to torque it way more than you should. It's important that you don't do that, as tempting as it is. No lubricants, no other cleaners, unless it's just brake cleaner. Any kind of oily cleaner is just a big no. Hey. And so all I did was crowbar here against the spring housing and then just push. Just gonna use a bit of dry PTFE. I don't know if you can see it from there, it's got a little tab at the end, so that needs to be pressed up against the lower arm. That'll give you your alignment. Thread them on with the old ratchet. And don't forget your lining screws, also T25 like we said. Yeah, go for a drive, enjoy your new shock absorbing suspension and have a nice life. There you go, back to original ride height, job done. Any questions, just let me know.